Yeah, I don't remember where I read this. It's like my friend's friend wrote a blog about how actually difficult it is. So I don't know if this is a disadvantage, but more of like a difficulty, I guess. So this person was just writing about how actually difficult it is to have a true multi-ethnic, multicultural church. Because like I think he was talking about like how in his church, like they have people who are like vegetarians and they have people who believe that like you should like only eat steak or um, uh, basically he was just making the point that like when they do have like fellowship, it's hard to figure out like okay, what are they gonna do, like where are they gonna eat, and like it's just difficult, especially like like people who are preaching there. You don't want to like offend the environmentalist who's like in your church, like it's so diverse, right? Like you have like this was like a church in California, so it's like you have all these sorts of different people walking in and have different beliefs, and so like just making a silly example about the environment might offend somebody. So so it's like um it's beautiful when it works out right, like that when everybody puts Christ before their differences. But the reality is there is some difficulty with it, and maybe I guess that's where like it's a good thing when we actually see it working. It's beautiful. But I think a lot of people don't really understand, right? When they aim for like what is that, multi ethnicity, the kind of grace and understanding that you have to be able to show, especially if it's like a different culture, right? Like if there's actually like, what if there's like truly uh not like a Filipino American, but like Filipino in your church, and like a true Korean, not like Korean American, and like a Sudanese, right? Like you have to like learn their culture. You have to understand who they are, what's offensive to them, right? Like just so that you could actually share the gospel. It's not as easy as like, oh yeah, come here and eat pizza, but the person doesn't like eat um, or come here and eat pork or something, but that person doesn't eat pork, or you know what I mean? Like there's actual difficulty that some people don't understand, and I think we probably are not talking about like the extreme of like multi-ethnic where there is like these. We're probably just talking about like multi-ethnic in the sense that like people who belong in your community. But I was just trying to give that extreme example.
Hmm. Well, I would probably offend an environmentalist too. So.
Yeah.
But isn't that what the gospel is? It's a rock of offense, a stone of
That's
stumbling for
right.
people, and it's foolishness to those who don't believe. But God saves all sorts of people, and
Yeah.
uh, it just happens sometimes. People just walk through the doors of churches sometimes, especially in this season.
Hmm.
Like I was just sitting down with my elders uh, earlier in the week, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, we had a Muslim and a Roman Catholic come in to church just because they wanted to do something spiritual, and their church, like their places of worship were closed, right? Well, the Catholic church was closed, and I think
Yeah.
the person who came with the Muslim, I think they were like, I think they're in a dating relationship. They met on Bumble. I didn't even know that was a dating app, but they met on Bumble. They came to our church. I was like, what is going on? But that's what the Lord is doing. Like God just brings people in.
Yeah.
And they're if they sit under the preaching of the word, like you
Yeah.
don't know what God's word will do. You
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
faithful.
No, I think you're. I mean, I'm not saying again that it's a disadvantage of multi-ethnic church, but I'm just pointing out that sometimes we don't know. I mean, we don't realize the kind of sacrifice we have to make to have that multi-ethnic church.
Are you thinking in line of like Paul? Like I
Yeah,
became like
like
all
to
things for these people.
yeah, like I imagine if I truly have a multi-ethnic church, I have to like know them, know their culture, like right, like if it's a Filipino, I already know, like I gotta get whatever food they give me, or else it's offensive. You know what I mean? Like little things like those. Obviously,
Mm.
Or you got to fight over the check a couple times and then you settle.
yeah, yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is like it takes work to truly have a multi-ethnic church.
I mean, it's going to take work, in whichever situation it is. It's
Yeah,
gospel work,
yeah,
and it's we're laborers. Laborers are few, but there's a lot of work to do, and it's plowing,
yeah.
plowing the hearts of people, whether they're in your cultural context or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard work, regardless. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think in relation to what Aaron said about knowing your church, I think that that's something that we need to do more of. Is we need to seek to understand other people's cultures more. I think very often people will say that this church is unbiblical because of they don't agree with their way of doing church. But I think, for example, if you think about missionaries when they go to another culture and they share the gospel, and then their church naturally rises, you have to like kind of like make sure you're not bringing your American Christianity to them. You have to make sure that what you're giving them is pure, just Christianity. And then it's kind of like what happened with Paul. Some Christians were thinking, do we have to make them Jews first and then make them be
Yeah,
Christian? But Paul was saying, no, we should just make them be Christian, and we don't have to make them follow my Jewish customs to be Christian. So likewise with missionaries, and also with multi-ethnic scenario situations, you don't want to have your congregation and then you're unknowingly making them conform to your cultural expression of Christianity. So you have to be aware of your cultural bias, or not bias, but your culture, the way you do church, the way you what values you have as your in your culture, and you also have to be aware of what their values are. And just to give a simple example, is like time. How do perception of time? Like if you're in a multi-ethnic setting, there's gonna be that
yeah.
struggle with the colored people time, where the white people will come on
PPT.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah. What did you say? PPT?
CPT.
Oh yeah, CPT. So
What's
you
that?
kind of
Colored people
colored
time.
people time. Yeah. So like,
So wrong.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man.
So like if you're a white pastor, you can kind of feel like, oh, they're disrespecting me because they're not coming on time. But then if you're more aware of their culture, then
That's
you
a
can be
very
more
good example.
understanding. Yeah.
That's a very good example. All
Yeah. So I
right.
think that's where it starts with multi-ethnic churches. They need to learn how to understand each other's cultures.